everybody, hope you're all keeping well. I've got to tell you that filming that football video was one of the strangest things that I've had to do. On lockdown, going into the school field to shoot a pretend video, and in particular making a goalkeeper myself. And I had a moment when I was putting together my goalkeeper and making him, and then putting on my plastic bag for his head and drawing on his face, and I could hear some music. And there's some pupils that live right next to the school and can see into the school field, and some ex-pupils that I've taught, in fact, that live there. And I thought, if they look over the fence at you now, they're going to think that you've gone absolutely mad. But I haven't. I'm absolutely fine. It was all in the name of a video, of course. So today's lesson is a little bit inspired by, I was watching the news the other day and I could see that they're talking about getting the premiership going and what they're going to do, and it made me think about if it carried on the way it would, could we predict what points everyone's going to have by the end of the season? So that's what our lesson is going to be linked to today. Okay, so as I said earlier, today's 40-minute maths is all linked to the football premiership. So as a starter, here are the 6 top teams, but with some bits covered up. So here's the league table. So just to draw your attention to what each of the columns mean, if you're not familiar with it. The first column there, if you can see me hovering my eraser over it, is the matches they've played. W stands for wins, D for draws, L for losses. F stands for goals scored for. So they've scored 66 goals, and A stands for the goals scored against, and they've let in 21 goals. And that is GD is your goal difference. To find your goal difference, you subtract the goals they've let in away from the goals they've scored. And the end is points. So with football, you get 3 points for a win and 1 point for a draw. So press pause and off you go. Okay, so I'm going to start wiping this away. So I'll explain just a couple of the columns as we go. So for here, you'd see to find the goal difference, you'd subtract 21 from 66, and the points, they scored 27. They won 27, so you do 27 times 3 because it's 3 points for a win, and then you'd add the 1 point they got for the draw, which should make 82. This is a bit trickier because we know the goal difference and know the goals they've conceded, so you've got to work out how many more they would have scored. So you'd have to add these two together, which makes 68. 68 subtract 31 equals 37. And I'm just going to wipe the rest away. Okay, so today's learning intention is, can I use ratio to predict the outcome of the football premiership? And there is some best in the business bonus questions, all linked to the man, the myth, the legend, 5 times FIFA World Player of the Year, Martino Gosling. Okay, so before we go on to the main activity today, I just want to go over the mean, just to give a bit of a recap to any of those children that have forgotten or don't know how to find the mean. So the mean is a way of finding the average, really, to find about what someone would get or would be expected to get. So let's have a look at this question. Here are the lengths Fred threw in javelin on sports day. Can you calculate his mean length to the nearest metre? So to find the mean, you have to add all the numbers together and then divide by the amount of numbers you've added. So there's 4 different numbers there. So my first job is to add them all together. Now you might want to do a column addition for this, or some different strategies, but I'm just going to do it in my head for now. So if I was to add those, 20 add 17 is 37, add 14 is 51, add 12 is 63. So if I add them all together, it makes 63, and I need to divide 63 by 4. So here we go. So we're going to put 63 inside my bus stop. And I'm going to divide that by 4. And I'm going to do it to the nearest metre. So 4s into 6 go 1. 4s into 23 go 5, with 3 left over. So we're going to go into a decimal. 4s into 30 go 7 times 4. 4 sevens are 28 and 2 left over. I don't need to go any further because I want it to the nearest metre. So if I'm rounding to the nearest metre, I look at the number after the decimal point, which is 7. Because it's a 5 or above, we're going to round it up. So his mean score to the nearest metre is 16 metres. Okay, so we're still not quite onto the actual main bit yet, but I want a bit of practice finding the mean because that's sort of linked to that's linked to the main part of our lesson, which is sort of combining that with ratio. So, can you find the mean number of wins, losses, draws, goals scored, goals conceded, goal difference, and points by the top 6 teams so far this season? Round to the nearest whole number. So press pause to crack it on your own. If not, I'm going to go through it. So let's have a look at the top 6 teams. If we look at the wins, you'd have to add them all together, all these numbers together, and then divide by 6, and then round to the nearest whole number. So the mean number of wins by top 6 teams is 16. Same for draws, you'd have to add them all together and divide by 6, and so on and so forth. So here are the answers. So, as I said earlier, we're going to use a little bit of ratio to work out or predict what the teams will end up with points-wise by the end of the season. In fact, I guess it's a little bit finding the mean, and it's a little bit of using a ratio. So the way we're going to do it is we are going to work out what the team's average or mean score amount of points they get in one game, and then multiply this by 38 to find out what they would get at the end of the season. All the Premiership teams play 38 matches. So that's why we're going to multiply 38. So let me explain a little bit more. I've gone to Tottenham here, who have got 41 points so far this season, and that's in 29 matches. Okay, so I want to find out how many points they would get on average in one match. Okay, so I'm going to get my 41 points and I'm going to divide it by 29 to work out how many points they would get in one match on average. Okay, so I'm going to do that by doing 49 divided by 21. So, first of all, how many times does 29 go into 4? It goes in 0 times. How many times does 29 go into 41? It goes in once. I'm pretty sure if I doubled 29, it's going to be more than 41. So I'm going to go into my decimals. Now we're going to do this. We're going to round it to 1 decimal place. So I've gone over this in previous videos before, but we're going to do it again. So 29 goes into 41 once with how much left over? 12. Okay, so 29 into 120. Right, so let's do a little estimate. 29, it's close to 30, isn't it? So I'm going to count up in 30, 30, 60, 90, 120, 4 times. Pretty sure it's going to go in 4, but I'm going to just check it by doing a quick multiplication. 29 times 4. Okay, 9 times 4 is 36. 6. Carry the 3. 2 times 4 is 8. Add the 3. Makes 11. 116. Yep, I was right. It goes in 4 times with how much left over? 4 left over. Okay, 29 into 40 goes, pretty sure it just goes once. So 1.41, so to the nearest, to 1 decimal place, Tottenham score on average 1.4 points per game. Okay, so I'm now going to do my 1.4 multiplied by my 38. I'll just put a little times sign in there. It doesn't matter which way around you do it. You could do 38 times 1.4, 1.4 times 38. You'll get exactly the same answer. So I'm going to pretend this is 14 until right at the end, and then I'm going to put my decimal point in, if you remember. That's how we multiply decimals. So 4 times 8 makes 32. Now, I say this all the time. I like to put my little number that I carry there. I know some people put it at the top, some people put it over here. It's up to you where you put it, as long as you remember to add it on. Okay, 3 times 4 is 12. Add the 3 makes 15. Do always cross it out after you've done it though, to make sure you've make sure you've added it on, or you don't add it on twice. Put 0 here as a placeholder, and next bit's easy, isn't it? 1 times 8 equals 8. 1 times 3 equals 3. Okay, now we're going to add these columns together. So 2 plus 0 makes 2. 5 plus 8 makes 13. Carry the 1. And 1 plus 3 plus 1 makes 5. So they'd end up with 532 points by the end of the season. But no, they wouldn't. I hope you've just spotted my mistake there, because I've forgotten to do my decimal point. Don't forget to do that. So you can see there's one number after the decimal point, so I count one number back, and I'm going to put my decimal point there. So if they carried on as they were, as they've been going, they would score 53.2 points by the end of the season. So here we go then. Here is the top 6 teams in the Premiership this season. So I want you to use this to predict what points the teams will have at the end of the season. Now, of course, teams go through runs of form when they play well or they don't play so well, and some will have harder matches at the end than others. So it's not really a foolproof plan, obviously, but it might give you a little bit of an idea. So off you go. Okay, so if they carried on the way they were, their points at the end of the season would be this: 106.4 for Liverpool, which is a record actually. I think the team to get the most points in the Premiership before that was Man City in 2017, 2018 when they got 100. So Liverpool will be really keen to carry on and see if they can get the record. Man City 76, Leicester 68.4, Chelsea 46.6, Man United 60.8, and Wolverhampton Wanderers 57. Okay, so here's your best in the business bonus questions, all linked to world-renowned Martino Gosling. What a player this guy is. He really is something else, I'm telling you. Okay, so press pause to crack it on your own, but before you do, question number 2, which is how old is he in months and days, can you work that out up to the 8th of May, which is hopefully when you're opening this video. So let's have a look at question number 1. Martino Gosling has scored a mean number of 36 goals a season over the last 5 seasons. 5 seasons ago, he scored 40 goals in that season. What was his mean number of goals per season over the last 4 seasons? Okay, so let's think about this. Over the last 5 seasons, he's scored a mean or average number of goals of 36 a season. So if we multiply that by 5, we should be able to work out that he scored 180 goals in the last 5 seasons. But 5 seasons ago, in that season, he scored 40, which means over the last 4 seasons, he scored 140 goals. So to work out the number of goals per season over the last 4 seasons, you'd have to divide that by 4, which would be 140 divided by 4, which makes 35. Question number 2. I'm not going to go through this. Hopefully you've just worked it out to be 315 months and 18 days. Okay, so last question. Of the 19 goals he has scored, 11 have been with his right foot, 3 have been with his left, and the rest with his head. What percentage have been scored with his head? Round your answer to the nearest percent. Okay, so 19 goals. 11 with his right, 3 with his left. So 14 overall and the rest of his head. That means 5 goals must have been scored with his head. So 5/19. So we need to turn that into a decimal and a percentage. So if you, to turn 5/19 into a decimal, you do 5 divided by 19, which is 0.26 if you rounded it to 2 decimal places, which would then be 26%. Ooh. So I hope everyone found the maths okay today. So this is my last lesson before the weekend, so I hope everyone has a great weekend. I'm going to work on my football skills because obviously I need to do that. But let's hope the sun's shining, everyone has a lovely weekend, stay safe and make sure you're good for your parents. And I'll put my next video on Sunday night, so I'll catch you then.